Friendswood 911. What's the location of your emergency?
Riddle South Street. I heard 2 guns fired. Please hurry. They're both shot. Both of my friends. I think the killer's still in the house. I don't know. He's my friend though.
The one with the gun, what's his name?
Connor Hilton. 17 years of age, I believe.
What's going on? Somebody hurt? Who's hurt? People.
Where are they at?
When police get to the scene, the first person that they come upon is Connor. And they're trying to figure out what happened.
2 teenage males.
Okay.
Inside.
Okay.
I think they're deceased.
The officers aren't exactly sure when they walk into the house what they're going to see.
And what did the police see?
Ethan first, and then you see Ben. They were both shot in the head.
I'm gonna die.
I'm just gonna detain you, okay?
They immediately turn around and they say, detain him. Talking about Connor.
Why did I do this?
He's gonna buckle you up, all right?
I have your son in the back seat of the patrol car because he's indicated to us that he took 2 people's lives today in your house.
Okay.
Dear God, I'm going to hell.
He never had a temper, always very mild, laid back.
Had he ever been in trouble?
No, never. My son, he's a good boy, he's a good kid.
Relax, okay?
That was not him that night. I know that was him physically, but mentally, that was not him.
Just have a seat in here for me, okay?
That night, he was just like, why would I do this? You know, those were my friends.
Can you tell me anything about your friends, about Ethan and Ben?
I'm sorry. All I'm gonna say is that they were very good friends to me. That's all I'm gonna say. It's so evil.
He talked about that it was evil, what he did. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to pull that trigger, and he did.
Hey, listen to me, Bella. Take you some deep breaths, okay?
Connor's accused of shooting 2 friends. He admits that he did it. What am I missing here? Why take this case on?
Well, because we wanted to get to the truth of what happened, the whys.
It is baffling to me. Out of the blue, a extremely incredible act of violence was committed.
After our research, we realized that there was a reason.
Do you take any prescribed medications?
Yes, sir, I do.
What do you take?
An expert with the defense saying the shooting was driven by psychosis caused by a popular acne medication.
You think the acne medication puts you in a mental state where you could commit murder?
Yes, ma'am.
It was just before 9 p.m. on December 23, 2023, when police arrived on scene in Friendswood, Texas.
What happened?
I screwed up so bad.
Somebody hurt? Who's hurt?
People.
Where are they at in the house?
Where are your friends at?
They're in the walkway.
They're in the walkway.
when police entered Connor Hilton's home. They found 18-year-old Ethan Riley and 19-year-old Benjamin Bleak lying on the floor, each with a gunshot wound to the head.
Hello? Who's in here?
They also discovered the boy who called 911. He was 15.
Open the door. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands.
It's just me. I'm in crutches.
I ran away from the house.
Pull your shirt up. Pull your shirt up. Let me see the back. Turn around.
Because he's a minor, we're blurring the face of the 15-year-old.
Is there anybody else supposed to be in the house?
No.
How many? 4 total?
It was 4 total.
The teen told police officers how quickly everything unfolded.
We literally not even 2 minutes of being in the house, we come in, he's on the couch or something, he stands up, I walk right to the bathroom, I have to pee, and then I heard 2 loud gunshots, and everybody was quiet. And I felt like I could hear laughing, but I think it was just them breathing, and Connor was like, what have I done, what have I done, and started crying, and I don't know where y'all found him, but I thought he was gonna shoot through the door or something.
In the house, unbelievably, paramedics saw signs of life in Ben and Ethan and worked to keep them alive.
Where's the gun at, bud? I really have no clue.
Outside, police bagged Connor's hands to preserve evidence before putting him into a squad car.
I need to be put in a mental hospital.
Connor, at first, claimed he fired the gun in self-defense.
We got into an argument. Okay. And Ethan tried to come at me, and he tried to come at me, and I freaked out, and he tried to grab for my throat.
At the time of the shooting, Connor's mother, Janice Hilton, wasn't home.
I got a message from my neighbor that said, hey, something's going on at your house. And I was already on my way home.
You pulled up, and what did you see?
Yellow tape, police cars everywhere.
I'm going to talk to you something that's going to be very hard to talk about.
Okay. The police had me sit in a car, and he told me.
I cannot believe this. This is insanity.
What was going through your mind?
I just was like, how could this happen? I was just there 45 minutes ago, and he was perfectly fine.
It wasn't long before Connor's father, Neil Hilton, received word. Janice and Neil divorced back when Connor was a toddler.
It's never in a million years would you think I would get that kind of phone call, just knowing my son.
Ben and Ethan were taken to area hospitals where they were fighting for their lives. Nick McCandless, then a detective with the Friendswood Police Department, was tasked with calling Ben's mom, Shannon Bleak.
I get her phone number through dispatch and call her up, and I said, look, your son has been injured, and I need you to come up here.
I just got in the car and I just started praying.
And what happened when you got to the hospital?
Nick met me outside the doors, and he told me that Ben had been shot. And I remember falling to my knees. And he was like, come on, let's go upstairs and wait in the waiting room and let's find out what's going on.
Eventually, a doctor came out to speak with them.
He said that Benjamin had been shot in the head. It was all very surreal. It just didn't make any sense. I just kneeled on the floor and just prayed.
What did you say in that prayer?
I just asked that he be with Ben and that he please get us through this.
While Ben underwent surgery,
Where am I being transported to?
Friendswood. Connor Hilton was taken to the Friendswood Police Department.
I know this isn't a time to be bringing this up, but are you having a good Christmas, officer?
Nothing about that night was making sense.
Listen, what I gotta do.
Just read me my Miranda rights. I have the right to attorney.
So, well, yeah, but I'm gonna read them, man.
Soon, Connor would end up in an interrogation room with an entirely new story to tell.
You just got straight to the chase.
He literally just kind of opened up, right? And it was an emotional roller coaster.
You know what? I need to be honest with you guys. I just need to be. Oh my God. Oh.
Hey, man, how are you? Doing good, how are you? Good, man. I'm gonna take the seat off.
As his two friends were in the hospital fighting for their lives.
Do you know if my parents are here?
Yeah, I think your mom and dad.
Connor Hilton was in a Friendswood Police Department interrogation room so that detectives could start to unravel the truth of what happened.
How are you doing, sir?
This is Detective McCandless.
I knew nothing about him. I kind of went in blind. And so I had no idea if he was going to be aggressive towards me. I don't know you, man. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get to know you, right? Just trying to understand, you know?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Very polite.
Very polite. Not who I normally would sit across from an interview right after a shooting.
You just got straight to the chase.
It appeared the 17-year-old didn't want to waste any time. He launched into a story, and this time he didn't mention an argument. Instead, he said it was an accident.
Oh, no. It just all kind of... It just all happened.
Tell me how the gun goes off.
It happened so fast. I had it in my hand. I really don't know. I was just standing next to Ethan. I don't know, but I heard it come off.
I'm letting him stick with his story about it just went off, right?
My idiot self had this stupid finger on the trigger.
So I'm like, okay, well, how did it go off the second time? And so I said, Connor, I've got two guys that are both been shot in the head, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, how does that happen as an accident? That's what I want you to explain to me.
That's when Connor Hilton broke down.
It's like his whole personality, everything changed.
And so did his story, yet again.
You know what? I need to be honest with you guys. I just need to be. Oh my God. Okay, I've had suicidal, homicidal thoughts for so long. I went up. I went up to Ethan and just. I'm sorry for lying, you guys. I'm really sorry.
And Hilton didn't stop there.
I convinced my mom to buy that gun for me so I could either shoot myself or shoot somebody. And this feels so much better.
Hilton told the detectives that he hadn't told anyone, including his mom, that he'd been experiencing those suicidal and homicidal thoughts.
What did you think you were going to be able to achieve to help you by doing this tonight? Was it something you felt you had to do to be able to get this pressure off of you?
Yes, you said it right there. Those are the exact words. I know it's gonna sound really like psychopathic and just like straight up disgusting. It's weird, but the idea of murder is just super interesting for me. I don't know why. I don't know why it is. I don't know why.
Hey, it's okay. That interview was probably one of the most honest interviews I've ever had with a suspect in a case, where literally they just poured everything out on the table, and like you could see the sigh of relief.
So walk me through what Connor said happened.
Connor says that he had planned this. His plan all along was to shoot his friends.
I've been planning it for so long.
But he said he had no specific target in mind. He'd invited a whole group of friends over that night. Ethan and Ben just happened to be the ones who showed up.
I was convinced maybe he was going to try to kill me too.
As for that 15-year-old who went to the bathroom as soon as he got there, he simply got lucky.
I think he closed the bathroom door, and I thought it was risky to either shoot through the door or go, because he locked the door.
Okay.
And I'm really glad. I'm so glad that he closed the door and I didn't kill him.
Before the interview ended, Hilton made yet another admission.
What I did was wrong. I need to do the punishment. I know that. But I also need help. I need I need some help.
I could tell he was struggling that night with, I knew this is what I felt. I knew this is what I wanted to do, but how I got here, I don't know.
Connor Hilton was arrested on 2 counts of aggravated assault with serious bodily injury. That night, in jail, Hilton was allowed to make a phone call to his mother.
Mom, I need help. I need mentally help.
I know, sweetheart. It's okay. We'll get it for you, okay?
I did a very bad thing.
The next day, Christmas Eve, Connor Hilton was released on bond.
We got him home, and then he just lost it. Fell on the floor. We're crying.
Did he tell you what happened?
I couldn't hear any of it. I mentally didn't want to hear.
The Riley family spent their Christmas Eve in the hospital and were there when their son Ethan died.
Somebody spotlight these windows.
On Christmas night, officers were back at Connor Hilton's door to arrest him on a murder charge.
I look out the window and there's a SWAT truck outside.
Johnny? Yes, sir. Hey, is he here?
They came in.
Yeah, they came in.
Where's he at?
Where's he at?
There, he's right there.
Hey.
Hands. Show me your hands.
I was kind of like in the back of the house, sort of, and I just had my hands up.
Turn around, face away from me.
And they had their guns drawn?
Yes, ma'am.
You're under arrest for murder, okay, bud? Come on, bro.
Okay, so this expert May I give him a hug?
Sure.
No hugs?
No.
Connor.
Go.
Oh, no,
Let's go.
No hug? No. Hey, we love you, Connor. Connor, we're working on it, okay? Be strong.
Hilton was booked into jail, but again, the stay was short-lived. He was eventually given a bond, and his family posted it. As Connor's parents began grappling with what their son had done, Shannon Bleak was still in the ICU with her son, Ben.
His head was bandaged significantly.
She'll never forget the moment she was first allowed to see him.
I saw him and I started to hyperventilate. And a nurse grabbed me and hugged me. I composed myself and I walked over. I said, Ben, Mama's here. And Ben opened his eyes and kind of like, I hear you, you know?
If there is any good news in this story,
Ben, are you comfortable with walking over here?
it's that Ben Bleak survived.
How are you feeling today?
Good.
He has shown more resilience and more grit than any person I could ever even know. It's just like he's on a mission to get better, and he just does it.
Shannon Bleak believes it's a miracle her son Ben survived.
Both bone flaps were removed, meaning the two big parts of the skull. He had a tracheotomy put in to breathe, and he had a feeding tube put in to eat. And he was paralyzed on the right side.
Following the shooting, Ben spent more than 3 weeks in the hospital before being transferred to an inpatient rehab. Not long after arriving there, remarkably, he was up and walking.
Straighten it out.
He was working so hard, so hard.
According to Shannon, Ben would stay in that rehab for over a month.
Excellent job.
We had to learn to swallow again. I mean, everything.
During that time, Shannon shielded her son from the details of the shooting. Ben doesn't remember anything from that night. It wasn't until he came across an article on his mom's phone that he learned his friend Connor Hilton pulled the trigger and that his best friend, Ethan Riley, was killed.
I was really sad.
What was Ethan like?
He was just an outstanding guy. He looked on things with a positive light.
You learned that this guy that you were friendly with was the one who shot you and shot Ethan.
I was furious.
But Ben forced himself to stay focused on his recovery. At that point, Connor Hilton was out on house arrest, awaiting trial. His parents say they were still dumbfounded.
We knew that our son, not in a million years in his right mind, would do that. We knew that.
You think he wasn't in his right mind?
Oh, yeah, he definitely wanted, in his right mind, he would never do this. He's always been the sweetest, loving boy ever.
In search of an explanation, Connor's father, Neil, began researching a prescription acne medication his son had been taking, called Accutane. The drug label warns of risk of, quote, depression, psychosis, suicide, and aggressive and/or violent behaviors. Neil encouraged his son's lawyers to look into it.
Something happened here.
Adam Brown.
Something happened.
It's an emotional case.
J.L. Carpenter.
These type of cases are a challenge.
And Rick DeToto make up Connor's defense team.
Connor had no trouble with the law, no trouble with school.
This doesn't make sense.
Something changed. The kid changed. What changed it?
What it came down to in our research was the acne medication. And my research led me to Dr. Bremner.
My name is Dr. Doug Bremner. I'm a professor of psychiatry and radiology at Emory University School of Medicine.
His CV is 96 pages long.
We didn't play around when we had our expert.
I don't think there's another human being on this earth who knows more about this topic than Dr. Douglas Bremner.
Dr. Bremner says he's done extensive research on isotretinoin, the generic version of Accutane. The drug is sold under several brand names. He also gets paid to testify in cases.
It's a very strong medication. There's a large number of people, throughout the world that have experienced side effects from it, including psychiatric side effects.
Why is it still on the market?
Well, it's a great treatment for acne, especially severe acne that's cystic.
And that's what Connor Hilton says he has.
Ever since I was little, I've always had these bumps on my bottom, sometimes on my armpit. They would be extremely painful. I couldn't even walk. That's how bad they were. We tried all sorts of medicine to make it go away. And then one day we went to the dermatologist and they said, hey, we're gonna give you Accutane.
That was in late July 2022, about a year and a half before the shooting. Connor was 15 at the time. His mother signed this document acknowledging the risks. According to court-admitted dermatology records, about a month later, Connor reported that he stopped taking the medication because he was, quote, feeling symptoms of depression.
I was feeling real down and didn't really feel like doing anything.
But Dr. Bremner interviewed Connor at the defense's request, and Connor told him that he wasn't completely honest back then. He said that it was after he started on the medication that he began experiencing homicidal thoughts too.
Did you tell anybody that you were having these thoughts? Did you try to get help?
I was scared to tell people of my actual thoughts because I didn't want to go to a mental hospital and people think I'm crazy.
Connor told Dr. Bremner that when he stopped taking the medication, the thoughts subsided.
They slowly disappeared. I was feeling more energetic, more like will to do stuff, but I was also in pain because of the bumps. They got worse again because I wasn't taking Accutane.
In January 2023, after several months of being off the medication, Connor's dermatology records show that he went back on it. This time, he was given a lower dose than initially prescribed.
Were you at all apprehensive? Like, oh, this has messed with my mind the first time. Maybe I shouldn't go back on this stuff?
The bumps were so painful. I just needed something to cure it because it was just unbearable.
Did the thoughts come back?
Yes, ma'am. Slowly, but yes, it did. Suicidal and homicidal thoughts.
Connor told Dr. Bremner that the thoughts eventually became consuming.
It just amplified the longer I was on it.
but he never reported any issues to his dermatologist again. Connor would continue taking the medication on and off for the next 11 months, up until the time of the shooting. Connor told Dr. Bremner that on that day, he took double his prescribed dose.
He said that he had missed the dose of the day before, so instead of taking 2 pills, he took 4 pills.
After pulling the trigger that night, Connor said he stopped taking Accutane and never experienced homicidal thoughts again. After speaking to Connor and reviewing the evidence in the case, Dr. Bremner formed an opinion.
Why do you believe Connor Hilton shot his friends that night?
I think he became psychotic on Accutane, and he had recurrent homicidal ideation that he was not able to control.
Dr. Bremner is firm in his opinion.
These thoughts did not occur before he took Accutane. He went off the drug and those thoughts went away, and then he started the drug again and the thoughts came back. So that's considered to be proof basically of a causal effect between a drug and a symptom.
You know that people are going to look at this and say, this is just a family looking for an excuse for the horrible thing that their kid did.
Well, I think that, there was no motivation. There was no history whatsoever of conflict. This person was psychotic.
JG Pharma, the distributor listed on the box of Accutane that Connor Hilton was taking at the time of the shooting, did not respond to our request for comment. But Connor's defense attorneys would build their entire case around Dr. Bremner's opinion, even though they were unaware of any other homicide case in which an Accutane defense worked.
You see this kid, you see how upset he is, you see how remorseful he is. It's not just some young man deciding, I'm just going to go on this rampage. That's not what we have here.
But prosecutors wouldn't be so convinced.
It's not Accutane, he was evil.
In August 2025, just weeks before Connor Hilton's murder trial was scheduled to begin, a hearing was held to determine whether defense expert Dr. Doug Bremner would be allowed to testify.
He's the most qualified expert I've ever had on a case.
Defense attorney Rick DeToto had to convince a judge that the doctor's testimony was reliable and relevant.
What we're arguing is that through the expert, Connor was in psychosis from the Accutane and he could not control himself. Murder has got to be done intentionally and knowingly. He could not control his behavior. And that takes out the element of intentionally and knowingly in murder.
At the hearing, Dr. Bremner testified that it was his opinion that Hilton was suffering from a medication psychotic disorder on the night of the incident. He pointed to a study he conducted which found that isotretinoin, the generic version of Accutane, impacts a part of the brain that regulates emotion.
There's the brain on the left before treatment, and then after 3 months of treatment, you can see there's a visible decrease in function in the upper part of the brain.
See the reddish area on the left? It's not on the right. Dr. Bremner says that illustrates the brain on Accutane has less activity.
Why is that important to what we've been talking about?
Because we know that that part of the brain is involved in depression and also impulsivity.
It is a bunch of horse.
Ben Bleak and his mother were in the courtroom.
It was very convincing listening to that gentleman speak. And then once questions were asked on the prosecution side.
Have you ever performed a brain scan of Connor Hilton?
No.
It just fell apart.
What was your reaction when you heard that their defense was going to be that this acne medication caused psychosis?
Well, I thought it was ridiculous.
Kayla Allen is the lead prosecutor on the case.
I don't think a jury was going to buy the Accutane, made me do it. Defense.
At the hearing, prosecutors argued Dr. Bremner's testimony should be excluded. And they introduced a more recent study that found that, quote, isotretinoin users do not have an increased risk of suicide or psychiatric conditions. For Allen, the case is simple.
I think that he just wanted to see what it felt like to kill someone.
And that had nothing to do with the acne medication he was
I don't believe it did, no.
She argues Connor Hilton was in his right mind at the time of the shooting and points to that statement he made on scene as proof.
He tried to make a statement
We got into an argument.
that one of the boys had come at him.
Ethan, he tried to grab at me. He tried to grab for my throat.
He's working a self-defense argument right from the beginning. Someone who's insane at the time they've committed a crime can't automatically start forming a defense for themselves. But by the time he got to the police station, it was like, look, I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm not going to lie to you anymore. I'm going to tell you the truth.
And Allen says Connor's police interview is also key.
He told police officers that he had been planning it.
He had acknowledged that he knew right from wrong, too.
I need to do the punishment. I knew what I did was wrong.
He knew by loading that gun and putting up to someone and pulling that trigger that he was going to kill them. That's what he wanted to do. These were his friends. Yes. Why would he shoot them? I don't know. Because there's no clear motive in this case, doesn't that support the defense's argument that Connor went into some sort of a psychosis? I don't think it does. There's just people that are evil and do evil things.
Allen argues Connor Hilton is one of those people.
Had you ever seen Connor pull out this gun before?
Yeah.
His friends told detectives about things he'd said in the months leading up to the shooting.
He would say, one day I want to be important. I want to leave a legacy. And he would make comments about killing people.
And detectives also pulled Connor's online activity. On YouTube, he downloaded numerous videos about murder. His social media posts referenced it as well. Connor's friends reported this post was made just hours before the shooting. It contains the lyrics, "Murder one, better run. Killing plenty is so fun."
It's chemically induced.
Connor's defense attorneys argue Connor became obsessed with murder after he went on Accutane.
So all of that can be blamed on the acne medication?
Absolutely.
And they say the police investigation supports their case because several of Connor's friends told police they noticed a change in him during sophomore year, which was after he went on the drug.
And when you say they noticed a change, what are they saying?
He was starting to isolate. He was getting more involved into true crime. He wanted to be a homicide detective.
But Allen insists Connor's behavior had nothing to do with Accutane.
That's just what the defense wants the community to believe because it gives them an excuse. He was having problems already before Accutane was even introduced in his life about not wanting to go to school.
In fact, Connor was prescribed the antidepressant Prozac months before he started on Accutane. But Connor says he was only struggling with normal teenage anxiety then.
I was a freshman. I was nervous. Do I fit in? Do I not?
And during that freshman year, did you have suicidal, homicidal thoughts?
No, ma'am.
But after that hearing to determine whether Dr. Bremner would be allowed to testify, the judge dealt the defense a blow and ruled Dr. Bremner would only be allowed to testify during the punishment phase of the trial, if necessary.
So in Texas, we have two phases, guilt and innocence, and then if there's a guilty verdict, the punishment phase.
So what will you do during the first phase of the trial, the guilt-innocence phase, if you can't present your expert?
There's not much you can do. You just have to sit there and take it and wait till you get to punishment, and then we put on an aggressive case regarding the Accutane.
There was still a lot on the line, because in Texas criminal court, Connor Hilton was considered an adult, and a jury could sentence him to as little as 5 years in prison, all the way up to 99 years, or life.
How high are the stakes here?
I don't think you get much higher.
It's a kid's life.
Two weeks before Connor Hilton was set to stand trial, a big development. Prosecutors offered him a deal, 50 years in prison if he pleaded guilty to murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He would also have to waive his right to appeal.
We know Connor would have never done this if it wasn't for the Accutane.
So you didn't want to take the plea deal?
I didn't.
You didn't want to take the plea deal?
No.
But Connor?
Well, he did.
What did Connor tell you?
I don't want the families to have to go through that.
They say their son didn't want Ethan Riley's family and Ben Bleak and his family to have to suffer through a trial. And he also didn't want to risk receiving a life sentence.
He was trying to get us on board with it. And I said, Bud, it's just a long time.
But ultimately, the decision was Connor's, and he chose to accept the deal. Connor's defense attorneys say they didn't counsel him one way or the other, but they believe he made the right call.
I think the consensus between the three of us was there was a very strong possibility that he would get life. That body cam video walking in the house, it's a very difficult body cam video to watch.
But while Connor Hilton and his defense team had worried about the possibility of a life sentence, prosecutor Kayla Allen had worried about the opposite.
My main concern was he was a young kid. And I think that at times it hurts juries' hearts to sentence a young kid to life. We did not plea the case because we were worried about the Accutane. It was more his age.
She says she offered the deal only after confirming the victims' families were on board.
All rise.
On September 2nd, 2025, a plea hearing was held.
It's my understanding you're here this morning to enter a plea on both of these charges. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
How do you plead to each of these charges?
Guilty.
He was crying because he was going to prison, not because
he felt bad for what he did. Do you think that Connor's acne medication played any role?
No. We know a lot of people who've taken that medication.
And they don't have homicidal tendencies?
Correct.
Why do you think Connor pulled the trigger?
because he wanted to murder somebody.
After Connor Hilton formally accepted the plea, Ben got the chance to make a victim impact statement. He made it clear to Connor how he felt.
First of all, stop sniveling, stop crying. You did this to yourself. Secondly, the grief you have caused the Rileys and my own family, I will never forgive you.
Shannon addressed the court next. She turned her attention to Connor's mother.
We are all living this nightmare because a mother chose not to tell her son no when he asked her to buy a gun. This mother put the gun in the hand of a child who should not have had it. Shame on you.
Remember, Connor had told police his mother bought him the gun.
I convinced my mom to buy that gun for me, so.
And in the hours after the crime, Janice also told that to police.
What was the reason for buying the gun?
He wanted to get it.
Okay.
But when we interviewed both Connor and Janice Hilton, they denied that the gun was purchased for him.
I purchased that for myself.
Why did you tell the police that you did buy it for him?
I have no idea. I don't even remember that they showed me the interview. I have no memory of that.
Do you think you were covering for him? Why would you say that?
I have no idea.
Janice Hilton has not been charged with any crime in connection with the case. And even though she bought the gun less than 2 months before the crime, she insists she had no idea her son was homicidal.
There were these social media posts that he made about murder cases. He watched a lot of murder videos. Weren't these warning signs?
No, I didn't think so.
The Hiltons continue to blame the acne medication.
You bought the gun in November. You didn't see any effects of the acne and medication psychologically that would lead you to think, I shouldn't have a gun in the house?
I didn't.
I didn't, no.
Still, Janice says she lives with an enormous amount of regret.
I'm so sorry that this happened, and I do feel responsible. I wish I could go back and change everything, and I would not have purchased the firearm. I wouldn't have made him take the acne medicine.
The last person to address the court during Connor Hilton's plea hearing was Matthew Riley, Ethan Riley's father.
I sit here with so much love in my heart for my son, Ethan.
Ethan's mother, Tara Riley, stood behind him. They declined our request for an interview.
He's a beautiful soul, full of love and light. You could see that light in his eyes and hear it in his laughter.
After that, Connor Hilton was taken into custody. We spoke to him inside the Galveston County Jail the next day.
Just the feeling of loneliness yesterday was unbearable. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did it to myself. I'm the reason why I'm here, but it sucks.
For Ben Bleak, everyday life remains a challenge.
Woo.
He plays pickleball and basketball to help restore his mobility. But he says one person has helped him the most.
My mom. She's always there for me.
Can you explain how difficult this has been?
It is very difficult, but pouting about it is not going to get Ethan back. So,
Just gotta keep going.
yeah.
Go easy on me, my friend. Whoops.
Oh.
See, my backhand is bad too.
Yours is not as bad as my mom.
Oh, is that what we do?
Yeah.
Good game.
Good job, guys.
Welcome back to Post Mortem. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Green, and today we are discussing the case of 17-year-old Connor Hilton, who shot two of his friends, Ethan Riley and Benjamin Bleak, after they arrived at his home in Texas for a scheduled hangout on December 23rd, 2023. Ben miraculously survived. But when Ethan died in the hospital, Connor was charged with murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And his defense, that he was on a prescription acne medication called Accutane that completely altered his thoughts and behavior. So joining me today to talk about this fascinating case is CBS News correspondent Tracy Smith. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thanks for having me.
I want to remind the listeners, if you haven't listened to this 48 Hours episode, the audio version, head on over to your podcast feed. You can find the full audio version just below this episode in the feed. Go take a listen and then come on back for this conversation. All right, Tracy, let us get into this very unique defense strategy. Connor's defense team found an expert in isotretinoin, which is the generic version of Accutane. And through this expert, Connor's defense team argued that Connor was driven to kill due to the side effects of Accutane, which the expert says caused Connor to have a recurrent homicidal ideation that he simply wasn't able to control. Now, I know that Accutane comes with side effects, and sometimes those side effects can be, quite powerful, but I'd never heard of anyone being driven to kill because of it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either. If you look at the label does warn of risk of depression, psychosis, suicide, and aggressive or violent behaviors. And there have been other homicide cases that people have tried to use Accutane as a defense, but none of those have been successful. As a mom, I know kids who've been on Accutane, and it's a wonder drug for a lot of teenagers who struggle with acne. And a lot of people are on this drug and don't suffer any severe adverse reactions. And we did reach out to JG Pharma about this case, and they did not respond to our requests for comment. They are the folks who distribute the Accutane that Connor Hilton was on at the time of the shooting.
So then let's talk about the science that the defense's expert presented. What do we know about it?
The defense's expert is Dr. Doug Bremner, and he's a professor of psychiatry and radiology at Emory University School of Medicine. And Dr. Bremner says he's done extensive research on the drug isotretinoin, which is the generic version of Accutane. He showed these brain scans where he says you can see the difference between the brain without isotretinoin and then the brain when someone is on isotretinoin. The scans show that there's less activity in part of the brain that regulates emotions when a person is on isotretinoin. And according to Dr. Bremner, he believes that in Connor's case, he was suffering from a medication psychotic disorder at the time of the shooting. And it's important to note that Connor told Dr. Bremner that on the day of the shooting, he took double the prescribed dose of his acne medication.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. He had been taking this medication for a while. You spoke to his parents and you asked them whether or not they had seen any red flags in terms of his behavior. They didn't see any. Did anyone else see red flags?
Yeah, they said they didn't, but the police spoke to his friends. I spoke to Ben, and his friends said that that gun was out at the house all the time. It was not locked up where it was supposed to be. And he also said concerning things. There's one story that Detective McCandless and also Ben's mom, Shannon, told me that a week before the shooting, the 15-year-old who was hiding in the bathroom on the night of the shooting, a week before the shooting, Connor had invited all of his friends over for to watch a movie, and the kids didn't want to watch a movie. And this 15-year-old was sitting with Connor, and Connor turned to him, and according to the 15-year-old, Connor said, "Have you ever thought about killing one of your friends?" There are also social media posts that Connor had made that showed a fascination with murder. And in fact, his school received 2 anonymous reports from the same person about 8 months before the shooting about these social media posts about murder. And they called in Connor's mother. They talked to Connor. They investigated, and they determined that there was no threat. We dug into the timeline a little bit just to try to figure out if this fascination with murder happened after Connor went on Accutane. And he did struggle with anxiety prior to going on Accutane. He didn't want to go to school, but Connor said this fascination with murder happened after he was on Accutane. Now, does that mean that there's a cause and effect here? The prosecution says absolutely not. Acne medication has nothing to do with this horrific act that Connor committed.
You know, Tracy, as I was watching The Hour, that's kind of like one of the things that I was going back and forth with, right? I know that there can be experts to argue almost anything, but I believe this expert that, you know, perhaps Accutane could have had these dire side effects. What I wasn't sure of was whether or not that could be a defense. And the prosecution sort of basically argued that too. In fact, they argued against the science. In court, the prosecution introduced a more recent study that found that isotretinoin, generic Accutane, that those users actually do not have increased risk of suicide or psychiatric conditions. And then the lead prosecutor told you that this case is simple. What she believes is that it's not a side effect from medication, that some people are just evil. You sat down with Connor for an interview. I'm curious. I mean, how did he come across to you?
You know, we talked to him right before he took the plea. At that point, when we spoke to him, he thought he was going to trial. So he, at the advice of his attorneys, didn't talk a lot about what happened that night. But I feel like we really did get a sense of who he was. And one of the things that stuck out to me was he was almost unnervingly polite. He would say, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, ma'am." At one point, he actually kind of stopped the interview to ask if I was feeling okay. I actually have a clip of that. I had asked him about his friends who he shot, and this is what he said.
Can you tell me anything about your friends, about Ethan and Ben?
I'm sorry. All I'm going to say is that they were very good friends to me. That's all I'm going to say.
And you didn't have any disagreements with them?
No. I never hated them. I never hated them.
There was no argument?
No, ma'am.
How do you explain what happened?
I don't know. I mean, I just need a water break.
Of course.
Just a water break.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, like, are you okay? Am I not like freaking out or anything?
No, of course not. And it's understandable why you would get emotional.
I'm just worried about you. Like, are you okay?
I'm fine.
He's worried about you.
Yeah, I'm just worried about you. Like, I don't know about you, Anne-Marie, but I've never had someone say that to me in an interview before.
Absolutely not. Clearly, you're asking him a very uncomfortable question, a question that he's struggling to answer. And so I'm trying to figure out if that response is, kind of authentic interest in what's going on with you, or if it is a kind of a stalling tactic. But it reminds me a little bit of him in the police cruiser when he asks, like, the officer about how his Christmas is going.
Yeah, are you having a good Christmas? I mean, every time I see that, I gasp. It's so unusual. And the detective said when they brought him down to the station right after that, it was the same sort of thing, this yes, sir, no, sir, this remarkable politeness.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the victims. After entering Connor's home, police find 18-year-old Ethan Riley and 19-year-old Benjamin Bleak. They're lying on the floor. Each of them have gunshot wounds to the head. Both miraculously still alive when first responders arrive at the scene, but Ethan later dies in the hospital. It is Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I mean, the timing of this is just heartbreaking. Connor was released on bond for the first time the same day that Ethan died. So it's hard to fathom what's going on here at Christmas time with these families. You have one family who has their son at home, the son who shot these two boys, and those two boys' families are in the hospital. I want to talk about Ethan just a little bit. His parents described him as handsome, athletic, bold, good-hearted. They said he could carry a conversation with anyone. And it was interesting. It struck me that both his father and Ben, in describing him, used the word light. His dad said in court that he was full of love and light. And Ben, when he was talking about Ethan to me, he said that this is the kind of guy who always looked at things in a positive light, that he was just this outstanding guy.
And we learn, actually, this is sort of like almost the highlight in the hour, is that Ben survives. And the way he's revealed as he sort of walks around the corner, it was shocking and thrilling. And I mean, if you've got to have like something kind of positive to hang on to, there he was.
Yeah. I mean, walking miracle, right?
Yeah.
And just, I feel so lucky to be able to sit with Ben and his mom and to see his remarkable recovery and also his sense of humor, as I'm sure you got watching this hour. He has this astonishing sense of humor. A quick story that his mom shared with me. When Ben couldn't talk, she had his friends put together a playlist of his favorite songs, and she would listen to that when she was with Ben. And a song from Toto, I guess it rains down in Africa, Toto comes on, and Shannon, his mom, just bursts out laughing like, this is ridiculous. And she looks over at Ben, and he has a smile on his face. And she just knows, like, my son is back. Like, that sense of humor is intact. He has no memory of what happened that night. But Ben is very crystal clear about why it happened. And he says it has nothing to do with the acne medication.
In fact, he called the defense horse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he doesn't mince words. It's a little bit of his humor too there.
I wonder if it's a blessing that he actually can't remember the details of that night. I wonder if it's actually helped him in terms of his recovery. Was Ben close to Connor?
Ben wasn't super close to Connor, but he was friends with Connor through Ethan, because Ben was super close to Ethan. And Connor's house was kind of the hangout house. So they would hang out as a group at Connor's house. Ben was a little bit older than the other guys. He was already taking college classes. And that's another part of this tragedy, is that he was so independent really starting his life. And his mom said it was like having a baby again, that she just had to redo everything with him. He had to learn to walk, talk, swallow again, just starting it all over.
So, we learn about the defense that's coming, right? This side effect of this very common medication. But then 2 weeks before Connor Hilton is set to stand trial, he ends up taking a plea deal. Prosecutors offered him 50 years in prison if he pleaded guilty to murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because when I heard 50 years, I actually thought that didn't seem like much of a negotiation. That's, it's a pretty hefty sentence. I suppose it could have been worse. It could have been life.
Here's the thing. When we were talking with Connor, the attorneys had just gotten the plea deal. And so as I was leaving, they went into a conference room to talk about this plea deal. And it's a little surprising. In Texas, a defendant gets to choose if they want the jury to sentence them. And the sentencing guidelines for murder are pretty broad. They're between 5 and 99 years or life. So you figure if he rolled the dice, he came off as this polite, sympathetic kid, maybe he could have gotten a lighter sentence. So in this plea deal, he's eligible for parole in 25 years. If he would have rolled the dice and gotten a life sentence, he would have been eligible for parole in 30 years. So it's a difference of 5 years. So it is kind of surprising that he took the deal. And his parents told us that after sentencing, he called them and said he regretted taking it. But he agreed to this. He signed something saying he understood what he was doing. He waived his right to a trial. He waived his right to an appeal.
Ben gave a victim impact statement at the plea hearing, and he told Connor that he was never going to forgive him for the grief that he caused his own family and for the Rileys. He came across as very, very strong, but it's clear that this has had quite an impact on Ben. I know you asked him how he was doing, and I want to play some of that sound.
Through this all, you've managed to show such perseverance. You've been so strong through all of this. What has kept you going?
I want to get back to where I was.
What do you mean by that? What do you want to be able to do?
I know it sounds dumb, but I want to dunk a basketball.
That doesn't sound dumb. That basketball was so important to you. You want to be able to dunk. You could dunk before.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to dunk again.
Tracy, sometimes we can be distracted by a person's presentation, right? His speech is a little slower. It's a little tougher for him to move his body. We can see in the hour. But when he speaks, I obviously never knew Ben until, watching this, but you can almost see who he was before this when he speaks,
Oh, yeah. I so agree. And getting out and playing pickleball with him really gave me a chance to see who he was, that strength. I mean, he absolutely kicked my rear end in pickleball. And it's funny, like that of all sports for this young guy to be into, but he started it in rehab. They had this group of other people who had suffered spinal injuries, brain injuries, and they would all get together to play. And he really took to it. So he's kept playing, and he and his mom have actually joined a group of older people playing pickleball. And they joke that the older people beat them all the time. But my guess is that's not going to be for long.
No, definitely not. You know that I have a teenager at home, and in watching this hour, it really made me think you have to be on your teenagers all the time. And I certainly have been guilty of, everything that my kid looks up online. I'm constantly surprised by her awareness of things in the world. And when I ask her where she got it from, she says social media or YouTube. But I just hope when parents watch this, they realize it is okay to be nosy. Get up in that computer and see what your kid is looking up and what they are writing on social media.
That rings for me. I have teenagers too. And that idea that we need to be on them and we need to sometimes be the parent and not the friend and say no has stayed with me.
Yeah. Well, I hope that this is one of the messages that people get when they watch the hour. I'm glad that the victims' families and Ben did not have to go through a trial. But I would have been very interested in hearing the argument and counter argument and whether or not it would hold up as a defense. It's a very unique case, Tracy. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
If you like this episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.